Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jonesin 4 Show, the place for you to get your inspiration, your motivation, and empower you to live your best life and to chase your passions to the max. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about eagle vision. Yeah, that's right, eagle vision, so that you can fly like an eagle or something like that, right? Well, eagle vision is something that I feel is really important if you want to live your best life, if you want to chase your passions to the max, if you want to have a happy life and have a successful life, you need to have eagle vision. So let me explain what eagle vision is through a short story. Now, I went to school for music education, and as I was in school, I sang, right? I was a singer, but I was also a piano player. I'm a classically trained pianist. And in one of my lessons, we had weekly lessons, I was working on this piece of music that was, it was probably like 8 pages long, something like that. And I was really struggling in this one section, and not just like one page, but as in like one measure of this entire piece was just kicking my butt, and I couldn't figure it out. And my professor was trying to help me through it, work through it, and he's like, you need to have eagle vision. And I looked at him and I said, what? What are you talking about, this eagle vision thing? What is it? And so he enlightened me. Now, here's eagle vision. Eagle vision, as he said it to me, and as I'm sure I changed it a bit, but as I'm sharing it with you, eagle vision is the ability to see a mouse, a rabbit, something on the forest floor from how many hundreds of feet up in the air. You could hone in and see the tiniest thing, a blade of grass on the floor of the forest. And you can also see the entire forest, right? You can see the huge expanse. And relating it to music, as he was talking about, I was struggling with this one measure. And I was struggling with it because I didn't see and understand how that measure fit within the entire piece, how that measure that I was struggling with in music, how that fit within that section of that piece, and how that measure in that section fit within the entire piece. I was missing those connecting dots. I wasn't connecting any dots. It was just playing sections and measures, and it wasn't making sense. It wasn't connecting. But as soon as I connected it, and he explained it to me, and I started drawing the lines, it started to click, and everything got easier for me. So let's hone this in, and let's change it now from music to life. In life, we all go through situations, we all go through times where we struggle on one thing. Maybe it's one problem that we're struggling with. Maybe it's this little hiccup in our life that we just seem hung up on. And we get so focused on that little minute thing, right? Maybe it's little, maybe it's not, but we get so hung up on it that we miss the big things that are going on in our lives. So let's just throw out a quick example of this. You have a project due at work, right? I'll take one from my experience. I was planning a trip for my choir kids to go to Oklahoma to do combine with another choir and perform. So I was creating this trip. I was planning it all myself, and how to get the kids down there and doing all the activities and all that good stuff. I kept running into these roadblocks along the way, as in like, man, we couldn't drive a van because there was too many of us to take a van, and busing wouldn't work because of cost issues, and then just with the long drive and all that, I kept running these roadblocks. Now, I could have focused on that roadblock and kept banging my head against the wall, trying to make that one thing happen, or letting that stop the whole trip from happening because I couldn't figure out a way for the students to get down there. That's when you get so focused on that tiny detail, which, you got to get down there, right? So it's not a tiny detail, but you have to focus. I was so focused on that small one that I kind of lost sight of the bigger ones, or I could have. But instead, I didn't let it stop me. I found different ways. I found a different way for us to travel down there. I tried like 3 different ways to get us down there as cheap as we can, and it ended up that we flew down, and that made it cheaper and easier, regardless of flight. But that's the idea, right? That you get so focused on one thing that you get that disconnect with everything else. Like I did in that piece of music. I was so focused on that measure of why isn't this measure working? Why isn't this clicking? It's because I didn't take that step back. I was so focused at that tree right in front of my face, a problem right in my face, that I did not step back and see the forest, see the beauty of the areas around me, right? So this happens in our life when we get so focused. So here's how you get over this, because it's going to happen. I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to happen. Get over it. Now, when it happens, the only way to get over it is to know how to get over it, or have friends and help you get over it. And that's what this show is for, right? To help you live your best life. So here is the tips that I learned from my experience to get over this. First of all, verbalize it. Verbalize that struggle that you're having, not just mentally. Don't just say it in your head, although that's nice and good, but verbalize it. Just by saying something out loud, put yourself in a room where no one else is so they don't think you're crazy, or maybe you're walking all by yourself and people can think you're crazy if you want, right? People think I'm crazy because I do it all the time. Maybe it's because I am crazy. But in any case, verbalize it. Say it out loud. By saying it out loud, you are going to have a more realization. It's going to be more real to you, and you're going to realize the situation and put it into perspective much more than in your head. Because when we're in our head, man, it's so easy to let it just blow out of proportion and hurt us. So be careful. So verbalize it, say it out loud, and then try drawing those connections. Draw a chart if needed of how this problem, of how this situation, that thing that you're stuck on, influences the rest of that situation. So for the piece of music, how does this measure connect with everything else within this bigger box of the section of music that it's in? And how does that measure fit within that section, and that section fit within the piece, right? So I'm drawing those lines. I'm drawing a chart through music, right, of how this all fits together. Now, same thing with the trip to Oklahoma. How is this problem affecting everything else? And how does it help and hinder it, right? How does it fit in? So the question for you is, how does that one tree, that one stumbling block fit in with everything else? And how can the other things around it help you solve that issue? And then one of the biggest things is to understand that there's an issue, right? You know that I'm struggling with this. This is a problem. And then accept it. Like, yep, this is an issue. This is a problem. I see that it is. I recognize that it is a problem. And then addressing it. Because if you just try throwing it under the rug, if you just try ignoring it, it's not going to help you out, right? You're not going to solve that issue. Maybe you'll be lucky and it'll solve itself, or someone usually will then have to step in and solve it for you. But don't let that happen. Be stronger, be better than that, and solve that issue. Instead of just dusting it under the rug, look at it, see that it is an issue, accept that it's an issue, understand it, and then attempt to fix it and work on it. But the best way to fix and work on it is by seeing how it fits in with the grand scheme of whatever it's in, right? So see the big picture as well. So that's how I found to help it. I look at it, I see how it all relates with everything else that's going on, and that helps calm me, because I'm going, okay, yes, it might be a bigger point, but there's so many other things happening here. And then I put it into perspective, right? It's shifting your perspective. Like, holy crap, this one small thing is this big issue. Oh my gosh. And going, nah, it's an issue. I get it. I see it. I understand it. But it's all part of this bigger thing. And you know what? It's going to be okay. Let's solve it. Let's do this. You just put it in perspective, and it calms you down. It's not solves the stress. It's not the word I'm looking for, but it reduces. That's the word. It reduces the stress that you have and feel, because you're able to put things into perspective. It's huge. Try it. Now, first, let me get a drink of coffee here, because that was a lot of talking. Love coffee. One more sip. Okay, thanks for bearing with me with that. So that's one perspective, or one part of the eagle vision that we get stuck on, is that small, minute detail. Then, sometimes, although I would say this happens less often from what I've noticed, we get stuck on the big picture, the big thing. We get stuck at looking at the forest and going, holy crap, look at this whole thing. Look at this forest, using the piece of music as an example. It's 8 pages of music. of piano music, it's a lot of black on the page that I have to learn and memorize and perfect. Otherwise, I know I'm going to disappoint my teacher and myself and everybody else. And right, it's a lot to take on, and we get stuck and we get paralyzed at the size of this, right? We look at this, think of an eagle, you look at the entire forest and you're going, look at this huge expanse. It is awe-inspiring, it is incredible, but also terrifying because of how big it is. Don't let yourself get paralyzed by it. Understand it again and see, okay, yeah, this is huge, but then get through it. Here's how you get through it. Here's what I have found to help me get through when I see this big task at hand, this big project, this whatever it is. Okay? What I found is I found that breaking it down into smaller sections is a huge help. So if I'm taking that piece of music that's 8 pages long, let's say in that 8 pages of music, there's 6 sections of it, right? 6 different forms within that piece of music. So that means, each section's about a page to a page and a half, maybe 1 to 2 pages, right? Something like that. These different sections. So I broke it down in that sense. So I broke it down into smaller sections. So then I can I learned this 1-page section. Okay, now I learned this section. Now I learned this one. And then you can put it together, right? So breaking down this big project, big task, big whatever, into smaller sections. If you listen to the podcast, the Jonesin 4 show, it's a podcast too, it's a vlog, it's so many things. But if you listened and watched the one about goal setting, this is kind of the same idea. You take your big goal, your big, hairy, audacious goal, and you break it down into smaller tasks. That's what we're doing here, right? We're taking this big, scary expanse and breaking it down into smaller sections. Then, as you break it down into smaller sections, you break it down into smaller tasks, right? Just like the goal setting thing, right? So let me just use the music as an example because we're rolling with it. We have 8 pages of music and it has the 6 different sections. I learned in this one section, but within that sections, there's, lines on the page, systems on the page. So I learned, all right, I'm going to learn this system. Or I'm going to learn this phrase, right? I'm going to learn these 4 measures and really hone in that. I'm going to learn the next 4 measures and hone in on that and work on it that way. So I'm breaking down the big thing into smaller chunks and those smaller chunks into smaller tasks, right? Into smaller chunks, yeah. And that allows me to get this huge thing into bite-size tasks that I can accomplish and feel good about accomplishing as opposed to being overwhelmed and paralyzed by this big and crazy thing that's happening. Now, again, realizing what it is, seeing it and verbalizing it helps. Now, when you verbalize it, you want to say it out loud. And the tricky thing with this one was I think verbalizing is a very important thing, but you have to be careful because if you verbalize it, then it can be easy to make it seem even bigger than, make it seem even more overwhelming when you say it. That happens some of the time, but the majority of the time when I do it, and I'm just telling you from personal experience, that when I say it out loud, it puts everything back into perspective. Again, not just in my head, but like out loud, out of my lips, just like I'm talking to you now, right? That putting it into words that are out loud puts it into perspective and makes it much more manageable, really. So you need to see the big picture, understand it, accept what it is, and then break it down into those smaller bite-sized tasks or those bigger chunks and then into smaller bite-sized tasks so you can achieve that goal or meet that deadline or whatever it is, right? So you're doing that. Now, again, a diagram can help. If you're able to see and draw out, like physically draw, it doesn't have to be good. It could be a rough sketch, right? That's all cool. But if you draw out a diagram, or maybe you're a computer person, you want to do it on there, cool, whatever, I don't care. But putting it into a visual of some type can help a lot to see how this project, this task, this goal, whatever it is, you could see how the small details influence the big details. Now, sometimes those details that you might get hung up on or think about are going to be really hard to draw, to visualize, or to put on paper, right, as it were. So it can be tricky, but at least seeing how the small things affect the big things and the big things are impacted by the small things and how this whole synergy between the two helps helps you relax, help you put things into perspective, and helps you have this eagle vision so you can see everything and the small things and how it's all tied together. It is so calming and so stress relieving to have that, and it gives you this peace of mind. I highly, highly encourage you to give that a shot. So other things you can do to help yourself out with this is have friends, have family and friends help hold you accountable. Like, you just tell them about it and have them walk through, tell them about this big task or how this small thing is and how it ties to it, right? Having that person there helps hold you accountable so that you're able to, I don't know, just have someone that might check in and say, hey, how's that going? And that's going to help push you to keep doing what you need to do to accomplish that and not get as overwhelmed, right? Because they're there to talk with you and help you out, right? Family, friends, an accountability partner. I could talk really. An accountability partner is a great way to do that, right? If you're in a mastermind group or things like that, or even if you have a coach, right? A business coach, a mindset coach, right? Like I do, or anyone like that is able to check in with you and say, hey, how are you doing with this? And it's just that person that you can say, yep, I'm struggling with this, but I'm doing really well with this. I'm kind of lost here. What can you suggest to help me out here, right? So having that person, those people in your lives can make a difference and help you find that success and help you keep that eagle vision longer. Sometimes when we're in the trenches by ourselves, we're in the trenches, we get so focused on whatever, it's a big one or that small thing, and it's hard to pull ourselves away from it. And having that family or friend or accountability partner or coach help us pull us out and help us put things into perspective can be huge. And you know what? It's actually a perfect segue for the next section, but there's big things that happen in your life that you can get really into these trenches, and you need those people to pull you out, right? You can do so much yourself, but sometimes you need that other person to really pull you out. So with having those other people, you're sharing this process with them, right? You're sharing the struggles, the successes that you're having, of how this is big picture, how it ties into it. And heck, you never know. It could be something that sparks an interest with them and you have something new to chat about, right? Or you have a new friendship or something, right? That can blossom from you going through this and sharing it with them. Never know until you try. Okay, so I kind of segued a little bit into it right at the end. And we're going to just take a little bit here at the very end because we're almost through with this episode, but I want to share this little bit about, well, how do I say this? Let's get philosophical. Let's get philosophical for a bit, shall we? Need another sip of coffee for this. All right, so bear with me. This is going to be a little crazy. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, but I think we'll be okay. And I know you'll be okay. And I think this will help. Think of life as a journey, right? Life is a cycle, like everything in the world is a cycle. Again, we're getting philosophical here, right? So life is a cycle. Life is a journey from beginning to end, from when we're born, when we die. Think of this journey as a huge forest. So we have this forest that we are living, that we are creating. Each minute, each second adds to it. Each day adds to this forest. Year, right? Our forest keeps expanding. The forest that we had when we were young kids is different than the forest we have now that is around us. Right? Each emotion that we have, each feeling that we have, each situation that we are in, each experience, every part of our life is part of our life's forest, right? And everybody's forest looks different. There's a lot of similarities between people's forest, but there's also a lot of differences. But just like you're unique, you are special. Your forest, your journey is unique and special to you. Now, some people share sections of their forest together, right? I think of my wife and I, right? We share some of our forests, of our life's forest, I don't know what we're going to call this, together. And some people just border it where they're part of your life for a little bit. Maybe you share a couple trees and maybe a path, and then they diverge and paths separate, right? It's a journey that we go through life, that we meet people we meet, we have experiences that impact our forest. Some are good, some are bad, some are indifferent. But life's a journey, and life's this forest. Now, some situations, as I said, are pleasant, some are unpleasant. And that's all part of the journey. That's all part of the forest. If you ever take a walk in the woods, you can see, especially bigger woods, you can see the differences of forests out there, right? The different types of trees. Maybe this one was through a fire or a windstorm or a tornado came through or something and damaged part of this forest. But then it regrows and then it comes back, right? And usually, not always, but usually comes back stronger. How does that apply to you? How does that apply to your life? How can you get stronger? How can you take those situations that are not so happy, that are a struggle, that are tough? How can you take that and grow from that? Grow, forest. And grow and be stronger from it. For me, it's looking back on it, reflecting on it, learning, and seeing my mistakes and correcting them for the future, because I can't go back and change the past, but I can fix it for the future, or do my best to fix and change it for the future, and then help others avoid those mistakes. One reason why we're doing this show, right? To help you live your best life, so you can avoid some of the mistakes I made and learn from them. But we all make mistakes, we all do things, and that's part of life's journey. So you have to accept it, understand it as best you can, and move on. Now, the best part about life being a journey and being a forest, if we would think about it that way, you can plant the seeds you want to have grow in your forest, right? So while we can't change the past, we can learn from the past, but we are able to plant the seeds of what we want to have in our future, of that pathway that we take. Maybe we don't get to pick the path. Let me take that back. Maybe we don't pick the pathway. That's life, that's universe, that's God's plan, whatever you believe in. Maybe that's how that pathway works. But then we're able to plant the trees and the forest and the living life that's around it to help impact and help shape our lives. Do we get total control of it? Maybe. Maybe not, I don't know. That's philosophy for you. But it's a journey. And think of your journey. Now, it's getting crazy philosophical, right, with this whole thing. But if life's this journey in this forest, it's broken up into sections. The bite-sized tasks of being every minute or every day. The sections being when you're a baby, when you're a child, when you're adolescent, when you're, maybe we break it down into decades, right? When you're in your 20s or 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. Maybe it's jobs, right? When you had this job or the other job. You break it down into sections. But it's all part of your journey. It's all part of your life. Look back on your life with eagle vision. Look at it from the big expanse as best as you can and hone in on the single things and see how it all plays together. It's scary. It's overwhelming, but it's also calming and peaceful and understanding. So there you go, folks. Eagle vision. If you want to live your best life, if you want to chase your passions to the max and have success and be happy in life, you need to have eagle vision. Something I learned from my piano professor back in college that I applied to music, forgot about, except in music terms, and then realized how much it applies to everything in life. And I mean everything. Have eagle vision, folks. It's going to make a world of difference to you and your goals. So don't forget about it. Look at the big expanse. Look at the small things. See how they're connected. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Jones and Forrest show. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you like this show, please let me know. Please send me a message. Let me know that you like it. Better yet, not better yet. That's all awesome. I love it. Give me a review on iTunes or Google Play or give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching it there, right? Let me know that you like the show. And the biggest compliment is sharing it out with other people. If you found this episode helpful or my other episodes helpful of the Jones and Forrest Show, share it with someone. Let's help more people. If you can help me share this message and my goal of helping people, if you could help share this with people so that we can impact and help more people to chase their passions to the max, I'll be forever grateful. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and I can't wait until our next time we get a chat and help you chase your passions to the max. Until then, I will catch you all later. Hey everyone, Spencer Jones here again, but real quick. Okay, so I'm super excited that I'm taking Jonesin 4 full-time now to impact more people and help even more people chase their passions to the max. One way I love to do that is on stage. I love jumping up on stage and sharing my journey and giving people the tools and the stories to help them live their best life, right? To help them chase their passions to the max. Whether it's for school, a university, business, a club, I want to help you. I want to help them. So if you know of anyone who would be interested in having me be a speaker for them, let them know about me. Send them to my website, spencermjones.com, or let me know and we can reach out and have this talk. So let's help more people chase their passions to the max. Okay, that's it. All right, back to the music. We'll catch you later.